So from the moment Conquistador arrived off the truck, he looked like he was going to be a challenge. I mean, he was big, brash, bold. I actually thought he was initially quite old, just because he just had so much presence about him. And from the moment I stepped into his yard, he appeared to be brave and kind and relaxed, but yet at the same time very much the alpha male. He obviously had a very big band in the wild. He was used to fighting to protect his mares, and sometimes he would turn those fight instincts and show pre-indicators that if my timing wasn't impeccable, I was going to be in serious trouble. So there were definitely moments where he threatened to charge, definitely moments where he threatened and he was posturing, and he was incredibly intimidating. If a novice or an inexperienced trainer had him turn up in the yard, I think they could have been in a lot of trouble. And so I was very fortunate that all of my body observations of the body language of wild horses and stallions in particular, and those sort of posturing before a stallion fight, actually kept myself safe in the yard with him, and it also allowed me to keep him as relaxed and safe as possible as well. So there were several sessions where I actually didn't feel safe being in his yard alone, and one of my stallion interns always was behind me. You won't see it in the photos, but they were actually always in the yard with me in case something happened and I needed to, have help to get him off me. But fortunately, by reading his body language and giving him space and time, I was able to diffuse situations as soon as he puffed up and showed a fight instinct, rather than asking a bigger question or another question, just giving him time to settle, and then once he was neutral again, continuing his training. Just in the round pen with Conquistador for his first session. He's a little bit flightier than some of the other stallions. No, that's a lie. I think he's probably equally as flighty as all of the other stallions except Portos. And this morning he's drafted alone. So he was in a yard here with 3 or 4 other stallions. Now he's in here alone, ready for a session. And there's no plan for the session. There's no sort of desired outcome by the end of it, except relaxation. So even just talking to you now, he's just lowered his head, relaxed, and given me a really, really nice answer, which is awesome. And I'm actually really excited to work with the stallion. He reminds me quite a lot of Elder, not only in his conformation and his size, but also the bump across his muzzle, and his reactions as well, actually. His body language is quite similar. So it'll be interesting to see how he progresses. So the signs of stress that I'm observing in him are the flaring nostrils, the raised head, the ears flicking backwards. Sort of when he feels uncomfortable, he does a small circle to the outside, and he also gets a hard glint in his eye. So when he starts recovering from that, he lowers his head, he rubs his leg, and licks and chews, and then slow blinks as well. So those are all signs that in the moments leading up to it, he found it stressful, and then when that replaces the signs of tension, he's starting to recover and find a safe place in these yards. So ultimately, with my training, if he doesn't feel so uncomfortable that he needs to move his feet, I'm doing something right. So if he's feeling the need to run around and move around this yard without that being a question I've asked, I'm putting too much pressure on him, and he's under too much stress, so he's engaging a flight response. This yard's big enough, and because it's circled, that they can go to a flight response, but in a smaller yard, if you were to put that much pressure on a horse, they could turn into a fight response. So those are both things I'm wanting to avoid when we're working with them. I feel like you could film again in 3 days and it would look like I've made some progress, but it's probably going to take 3 days to get him to the point where the difference in how close I can get is noticeable enough. Oh, good boy. Did you just see him step towards me? That was cool. Okay, I'm going to finish with that, and I'm going to let him out now. I was very relieved as time went on. He started softening. There was one day in the yards where I was like, I'm not feeling any threat from this horse, and he was able to walk straight up, eat grass out of my hand, sniff my hand, start being rubbed on the head and neck with the whips. And from that moment on, it was like he trusted me in his space. I was starting to trust him. We started this mutual sort of respect and I guess, affection for each other. I think he's a really cool stallion. I think he's starting to think I'm a little bit, okay. And unfortunately, because he was mustered from a great distance and some of it was gravel roads, he actually was a little bit lame from the muster. And then about the 10-day mark, he got really hopping lame, and it actually affected his training to the point where it just wasn't fair for him to continue. And so he was actually put out in a paddock for 5 days to recover, and it wasn't until the abscess burst on his coronet band that he was brought back in and was able to continue training.